Hi guys, you're watching Total Carp Fishing TV, and today we're taking a look at these brand new alarms from Trakker to finally hit the market after 5 years of development. These are the DB7R alarms and receiver. So what has that 5 years of development resulted in? They've resulted in a fantastically functional bite alarm which makes them a great option for the modern carp angler. So let's run through those features now and why they could be a great option for you. So for starters, let's turn the alarms on and we can run through the features one by one, how they work and why they might be useful for you. So to start off with, to turn the alarm on, it's a double click function, and basically what this does is it stops the alarms from accidentally being turned on inside your bag, which could result in your alarm running out of battery, which has happened in the past, and it's a right nightmare because you go fishing, you don't have an alarm in your bag, and unless you've got a spare, then that means that that's one rod that you can't use. So the double click function, just press it and then press it again for 3 seconds, and that turns the alarm on there. And like I said, there's no way that that's going to accidentally do that, so you're not going to waste batteries. As with most upper tier alarms on the market, they've got volume, tone and sensitivity control, each of those having 8 individual adjustable settings. Starting with volume, on the lowest you've got completely silent heads, and that goes all the way up to really quite a loud speaker. And that ranges all the way from silent at its lowest right through to a really, really loud speaker. They've used what's called a true tone cone speaker, and that basically means that on full volume it's as loud as you're ever really going to need it, but chances are you wouldn't have it on that highest volume, especially if you're using the receiver. Next up, you've got the tone dial down here, and that just allows you to set your alarms for whatever tone you prefer. Some people prefer low tones, others prefer high tones. You've got full customization there. And then finally, you've got sensitivity. Again, as I said, there's 8 different settings of sensitivity, but we'll run through that in a moment because that deserves a whole lot more detail. So moving elsewhere on the alarm's built on a roller wheel mechanism with 8 individual magnets, and that allows the bite alarm to be super sensitive on its highest sensitivity. Putting your rod onto the alarm itself, you've got these little rubberized rests here, which basically grip the rod really nicely, stopping your rod from sliding around, and that's particularly useful if you get savage takes. Whilst we're at the top of the alarm, you'll see that we've got 2 super bright LEDs. These are on a bit of an angle, meaning that you can see them all around the alarm, so you're never going to be in a situation where you can't actually see the LEDs of your alarm. And a great function of these is being able to change the colours. Simply what you do is you double click on the power on button, that brings it up, so you can see I've got white there, purple, red, green, yellow, blue, and then back to white. So simply clicking that power button scrolls through all the different colours, and then you can either double click it to select or just let it turn off as I have done there. Another useful function is the night marking with these LEDs, and that just means that they glow gently so that you can see that your alarms are on at night. Now, I've done it before in the past with other alarms where I've turned the alarm on, gone to use it, set the bobbin, turned it off, and then forgotten to turn the alarm back on. Or something like that's happened and basically I've had a take and the alarm's not been on. Being able to literally just glance out the bivvy means that you never have that sort of niggling feeling in the back of your mind where you're like, did I turn the alarm on? And it means that you can go to sleep with complete peace of mind. So to turn those on, all that you do is you simply click the power button once, and that toggles that night marking on and off. So now I'll run through this sensitivity dial in a little bit more detail because, as I said, I really think it's one of the standout features of this alarm. At their highest sensitivity, these alarms will sense the smallest movement on that roller wheel thanks to having those 8 individual magnets in there. But the key with this sensitivity dial is that as you turn it down, like most alarms do, that sensitivity becomes incrementally less and less and less and less until you get to the bottom where you've got roughly 15 centimetres of movement without the alarm sounding. The key with these alarms though is that they've got what's called an Intellisense mode, ISM, and that basically means that once a single beep has been triggered in whatever sensitivity of these alarms, they then revert back to full sensitivity. Now, that might sound a little bit confusing, but in practice it works very simply. So I'll just use this middle head here. I'll find a bit of twig that I pulled off earlier. So if I just turn that up a little bit. So you can see there that once that roller wheel moves, those LED heads come on. Now if I actually turn the sensitivity right down to its lowest, I can move that roller wheel plenty of times, but then once it actually registers, that roller goes back to full sensitivity. Now, the best way to use this, and a great way to use it, is that if you've got any sort of regular motion on your bobbins, say you're fishing in high winds, or maybe you've got some weed that's lapped up against your line, and that bobbin's going up and down, that can be a real nightmare. The other thing as well is that if you then just turn sensitivity down until it no longer beeps with that, what's happened in the past is you end up getting a take, and because the bite alarms don't have any sensitivity, you then don't actually get any indication at all. Now the thing with these is you've got that 15 centimetre sort of forward and backward motion of, say, the waves hitting where it won't sense anything, but then as soon as it gets pulled beyond that, it switches back to full sensitivity, which means that all these small sort of motions that you know aren't fish, you can sort of rule all of those out. So as soon as the alarm sounds, something has changed and it's likely that your rig's been picked up. So I found the best way to set this up is actually start off with higher sensitivity on your alarms, set up your bobbin how you want it, and just leave it for a moment to see if the alarm's beeping. If it is beeping, what you can do is you can turn the sensitivity down a notch or 2 notches, and then if you just hold the line until the LEDs go out, that resets the alarm to that Intellisense mode, and then you can see the movement on the bobbin going up and down, and if that no longer sets the alarm off, you know that that's no longer going to keep giving you those false beeps, and it'll only beep then if it gets taken beyond that particular motion. This makes the whole sort of sensitivity really easy to control, because if, for instance, you're fishing in a high wind and that wind then drops, you can just turn that sensitivity back up as high as you want it. Or again, if the wind picks up even more and that motion increases, all you need to do is hold the line beyond the alarm so that the line's not moving over the roller, so that it resets the alarm, turn that sensitivity down 1 more notch, you then let go of the line, and hopefully if you've got that sensitivity right, you'll no longer have these false beeps. Now for me, that's a real game changer, because what it means is that you can account for these small movements while still retaining the full sensitivity of the alarm when the line gets pulled beyond that point, so that you always know that in the event of a take, the alarm will sound and you'll be ready. A few more points worth mentioning is that you've got the 2.5mm jack on the underside here, which can be used for things like illuminated bobbins, and also the alarms run on the square 9V batteries, and I've always found that these 9V batteries are great for alarms, and they just seem to last for absolutely ages. They're a little bit more expensive, but they do seem to last and last, so that's a real plus point on these alarms. Another really useful feature of these alarms is the drop back differentiation, both in terms of the dual tone of the speaker and also in terms of the LED heads, where you've got a solid LED for forward take and then a latching LED for a drop back. So on a forward take as well, with that speaker, you've got your single tone, and then when you get the drop back, you get the dual tone. So it's really easy to determine whether you've just had a liner, because you'll get that single forward tone and then the dual tone as the bobbin drops back down. This means that it's easy to tell between getting a liner and a full take. So this is the new DV7R receiver, and as you can see, it's a really nice compact little unit. Now Trakker worked hard to make sure that it was super functional and also really simple to use. So firstly, they wanted to make sure that it was really reliable and that it had good range and connectivity, even through loads of things like trees. If you've got any sort of obstacles between you and your rods, they made sure that this receiver will still pick up those bite alarms when you get a take. In terms of the controls, you've got the on-off button, which has the same mechanism as the alarms. The double click, press it once, press it again and hold down for 3 seconds, and the receiver turns on. You've then got a volume dial here, which as you turn it, shows you how loud the receiver is going to be, and just like the alarms, it uses the same speaker code in there to give you a really loud and crisp sound. You've got 4 different channels on here, and for each of those channels you can pair up to 4 different alarms, which means you could have 16 alarm heads paired into a single receiver, so I don't know why you'd ever need that, but maybe if you're out on a social with all your mates, spread around the lake, and you maybe wanted to pair into all your mates in different areas so you could know if they were getting a take, then that might be a reason why you might need it. Or if you just had 16 rods, but I don't think anyone's even legally allowed to do that, but it's capable of doing it if you ever needed it. Great thing about the receiver as well is that both the LEDs and the tone of the receiver pairs with the alarms, so that any changes made on the alarms, whether that's the tone or the colour of the LEDs, then transmits to the receiver as well, so that it matches up to your alarm heads. You've then got these two simple buttons down here, one of which sets the vibration mode, so you could turn the receiver on silent and just have vibration if you didn't want people knowing that you'd got a take. And then button 2 down here is the last event recall button. So pressing and holding that will then illuminate the LED up here that corresponds to which alarm had the last indication. So if I just press that there, you'll see it comes up with the middle rod, which I was setting on the alarm. Once again, it's run on one of those square 9-volt batteries, so you know it's going to have loads and loads of power. And yeah, that's the key features of both the receiver and the alarm heads themselves. So as you'll have seen, not only are they very functional, but they're also very simple and intuitive alarms to use. So the last point to finish on is the price of the alarms, which come in at a very respectable $349.99, and that's for the 3 alarm heads and the receiver, which I'm sure you'll agree is actually a very respectable price. For any more information, you can check out the Trakker website, www.trakkerproducts.com.